disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. I hope you're having a fantastic day, but you probably won't be having a fantastic day after hearing this news from here in Canada, because with C11 and C18, the bills that will continue on the censorship tactics of the government overreaching into the lives of ordinary Canadians through social media and online content, it goes even further. Even further, folks. Because censorship has no bounds. It will silence anyone and anyone at any point in time to try to control the narrative. And that is the whole intentional when it comes to these horrific bills. It's not to really much promote Canadian content. It's more to promote their standard of Canadian content. It's promoting their narrative and pushing it through an agenda, pushing it through the mass droves of online content, and silencing people that are critical of the establishment, critical of these forms of censorship. And that's why they're going after online news platforms. That's why they're going after podcasts. And now it even takes it even further. Takes it even further here in Canada. Just the true patriot love of our society, that our government is taking the route of an furthermore of an authoritarian measure from protecting us from online conversations. And here's just a news clip of it. This is from CTV National News on the new C63 bill, the Online Harms Act. And by golly, there is nothing that our government would do to take it a further level of censorship. Take a listen.
Internet safety is a subject talked about in most households, especially with vulnerable family members, young kids.
First of all, I take issue with that. I can attest to that. I think most people don't really care about what's being said on the internet. I think the most important thing that Canadians are dealing with is, my God, why is my grocery bill so high? My God, why is it costing me $100 to put gas into my car to drive myself to work, that I'm working a paycheck to paycheck and not being able to afford basic necessities? Maybe those are the conversations that most Canadians are having. I'm a Canadian, and I've heard from other Canadians having those similar conversations. But no, I've never heard of someone saying, hey, there's too much online talk. There's too much stuff online. We got to suppress more information. We got to suppress more conversations of people talking online. Anyway.
Kids or seniors. The Liberal government is hoping its long-promised online harms bill will help protect people. The latest version is set to be introduced tomorrow. CTV's Colton Parail reports.
More than a decade after Amanda Todd took her own life after online exploitation and bullying, her mother hopes new legislation will help protect children and spare families the grief she's had to endure.
I felt like a failure as a parent because I couldn't do anything. This is why something needs to be done and to make it easier.
The Liberals' long-awaited online harms bill will be introduced Monday, the latest in a series of sweeping and controversial internet regulations.
We need to make sure, and I think we can all agree, we need to protect our kids online.
The proposed bill is aimed at online.
So, it's just amazing. It's amazing because the whole setup to this, because they got to sell you the idea, they got to sell you the policy as protecting your kids, which we can all agree, yes, it's important to protect children. It's important that your kids are safe. No one's going to disagree with that. No one's going to be controversial about that. I think it's fairly common that we got to be worried about children's safety. But to take that notion and to take the story of what happened with Amanda Todd, who is the young teenager that committed suicide from cyberbullying, taking that to the extreme of saying, hey, we got to bully the tech companies to institute restrictions on what's being said on platforms is absolutely draconian, absolutely insane. Because the government knows that they can't personally restrict content. They can't personally go and vilify Canadian speech because they know that's a federal offense against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They know that. So they're going to bully the tech companies, force them together to form some sort of fascist alliance, which we already have right now, and suppress people from using social media to be social. Do you think that's really a smart idea? Do you really think that's a smart idea? And considering the fact that they're saying they're protecting kids while restricting the rights of parents to protect their kids, because if you've been following along with the transgender movement, and again, I'm considered an ally when it comes to the LGBTQ. I don't really cover those stories. One, I think it's really just distracting the fact they elevate those stories. But if you've been following along with the stories regarding LGBTQ and all that, they're restricting parents' abilities to parent their own kids. And now they're saying that we got to have someone to protect the kids. So who's going to step in? The government. Isn't that great? The parents can't be parents to their own children. And now we're worried that children are not safe online. So rather than the parents actually being parents and being the decision maker for their child and making sure their children are safe, we're going to let the government do this in a wide sweeping nationwide stature for more censorship. Wow. And doing it by using looks like an AI image of that horror movie from the late 90s. I Know What You Did Last Summer. It looks like the fisherman guy. It literally looks like, the raincoat, the poncho that he wears, and I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. It's a good movie. Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr. Anyway, I don't know why I'm distracted by that. But anyway, he's probably using the hook hand to type on the keyboard. But here, listen to this.
Online companies and expected to target hate speech, terrorist content, child exploitation, and the sharing of non-consensual images, both real and AI generated, all with a significant focus on child safety.
These are large companies, none of which are based in Canada, and we have to have some teeth to be able to compel action, or we'll just be ignored, basically.
The Conservatives say it's an attempt to censor Canadians, while others hope for even stronger digital protections than those expected in the bill.
It is a place where young people interact, and therefore it is our duty to design it in order to protect young people.
Protection.
Again, don't they have, and I consider myself a bit technical person, don't they have parental controls for stuff you see online? Like, I remember, in school, when you go on the computers on the school network, they would restrict certain websites from you accessing the school network too. You weren't allowed to go on these websites through the school network. They had restrictions for that. Why are we not just telling parents and educating parents, hey, there's a way to make sure your kids are not cyberbullied. Hey, there's a way to make sure your children are not going to some, dark web, child sex trafficking site. Instead of this, because then they would actually give the parents control over what their children see. It wouldn't be censorship at a mass level by the government. It would be the parents' rights to protect their own family. But they're using the excuse of protecting kids as a way, as a deterrent, as an exploitation to further more censorship. This is so draconian evil that's happening in Canada, on top of all the other bills that are happening right now that are trying to get passed. And considering the fact that they're using the Amanda Todd story from 10 years ago, that at this moment in 2024, now we got to protect kids from cyberbullying. How long has cyberbullying been around? How long has been exploitation been around? Now they're choosing this time? No. It's nothing to do with the kids. It's nothing to do with the kids. If they really want to do something to the kids, they would have done day one, but they didn't do it. So obviously, they're using that story to manipulate people to say that this is the smart approach, that we need to have more censorship. That we got to silence out hate speech, which, again, they still have not found a perfect definition for. There's no definition for hate speech because hate speech is an abstract idea. It's within your mind. Something you see and interpret as hate speech may be different to someone else. It's like comedy, happiness, sadness. We're all different. We all have different opinions.
Some say should have existed long ago.
I don't have Amanda anymore, but I still worry for the kids out there and their families.
Legislation like this already exists in several other countries, like the UK, Australia, and the EU, now on their third.
Isn't that something? It's almost like it's not just Canada that's coming up with this legislation. It's not just Justin Trudeau saying that we're protecting the kids by doing mass censorship. It's almost like there's some sort of global controversy. It's almost like there was a group of individuals that gathered together that said, we need to have more censorship. We need to control the narrative to keep people safe. And that's the same kind of language they used back when the Nazis were around. That's the kind of same draconian, evil, fascist language that Mussolini said to his own people. Hey, we have to do this to protect you, to make you feel safe, because you're such a dummy, you're such a fool, you're such a vulnerable person that we have to step up and do things for you and control you and mass manipulate you because you're such an idiot. And it's happening all around the world. It's happening in the UK. It's happening in Australia. Good to know that the Commonwealth is on the side of people. Isn't it interesting? It's also the same countries that ally themselves with the World Economic Forum. So is this really Justin Trudeau thinking this and caring for the kids? Or is it really just marching orders from a global tyrannical power telling our country how to run itself? So here's the bill itself. And this is from the Parliament website. And this is just, it's so crazy how this goes. So in the summary here, it says Part 1 of the enactment enacts the Online Harms Act, whose purpose is to, among other things, promote the online safety of persons in Canada, reduce harms caused to persons in Canada as a result of harmful content online, and ensure the operators of social media services in respect to which the act applies are transparent and accountable for with respect to the duties under the act. And it's a long list, but I'm just going to sum up a couple key points here. First off, it says establishes the Digital Safety Commission of Canada, whose mandate is to administer and enforce the act, ensure that operators of social media services in respect to which the act applies are transparent and accountable with respect to their duties under the act, and contribute to the development of standards with respect to online safety. Another way to say that is we're going to create a task force in the government to control speech. This is basically extending the surveillance state. This is basically like our way of creating that, other Homeland Security, that other ICE program. Because we got to extend more of the security state. We got to be more intrusive to your private life. Be more intrusive to the online platforms that you're allowed to be social on. That's kind of the point of social media. Creates the position of Digital Safety Ombudsman of Canada, whose mandate is to provide support of users of social media services in response to which the act applies, and advocate for the public interest in relation to online safety. Establishes the Digital Safety Office of Canada. Why do I feel like this is just a list of job creation? That's all this really is. It's to create jobs for more surveillance and more tracking of you and making sure that you're into line. If you're not into line, then you're considered a hateful person. That's all it really is. That's all it really is. And again, they have no clear definition. This is like the battle of what is a woman. People have been trying to define that for a long while now, and it just seems so ridiculous that we can't come to terms on a simple definition. We don't know what hate speech is, and apparently we don't know what a woman is. Crazy world we live in. Here's also, this is from online, Reclaim the Net. And they said the bill covers 7 types of harmful material, from content sexually exploited or re-victimizing children survivors to content promoting violence and extremism. But it also outlines online hatred, so-called hate speech, and forms of deepfakes. And I love when every time they mention this, because I like to retaliate and say that if we want to talk about extremist content online, if we want to talk about hatred, if we want to talk about promoting violence, why is it that the military has social media accounts? Why is the CIA on social media platforms? Why is the FBI on social media platforms? They're always promoting hatred. They're always promoting extremism. They're the ones that are conducting the most awful bigotry online. They're the ones that are conducting the worst bigotry online. Why are they allowed to be platformed, but regular Canadians, like the ones you saw at the Freedom Convoy that were, just dancing around and promoting peace across the nation, they're the ones that had to have their bank accounts frozen. They're the ones that had to be silenced. They're the ones that are being criminalized for the simple act of having a protest. In an attempt to decrease the prevalence of harmful content, this legislation puts the onus on online platforms to be accountable and transparent about how they handle such content. Platforms like social media and live streaming services, great to know we're included, are included under the legislation's online services umbrella. The bill would also create a new standalone hate crime offense that would apply to every offense in the criminal code and in any other act of parliament, allowing penalties up to life imprisonment to denounce and deter this hateful content as a crime itself. Let me just reiterate that. The Canadian government, if they allow this bill to pass, can decide if your speech, your opinion, or something you say on anywhere on the internet is deemed hateful under their books. They had the legal right to arrest you and put you behind bars for life. There's mass murderers that get less jail sentences than people for hate speech. Just think about that. Think about that. There's mass murderers and serial killers that are getting less jail sentences than people conducting conversations online. And this new hate speech bill is going to put them at a higher priority. That somehow saying negative words online is more damaging than someone actually murdering someone. The proposed law would also raise the maximum punishments for the 4 hate offenses from 5 years to life imprisonment for advocating genocide, from 2 years to 5 years for the others while prosecuted by the way of an indictment. So this is how they're going to sweep in Israel-Palestine policies into this. Because now they could say that, hey, if you support Palestinians and their right to survive and live as human beings, you're promoting genocide. You could be sent to prison for life. If you advocate for a ceasefire, if you advocate for peace, if you advocate for ending the wars and providing that money to services here in Canada, you're considered a bigot, you're considered hateful, and you can be sent to prison. That's just how crazy this is. How unbelievably crazy this is. And who is it coming from? Because you just heard it's not just in Canada, it's also in the UK, it's also in Australia. Well, surprise, surprise. The WEF complains about disinformation, calls for concerted efforts against it from government and tech companies. So now you know where the marching orders truly come from. It's not just our country protecting kids. This is a global-wide, nation controversial conspiracy. This is a bunch of elitist oligarchs gathering together to find a way to control the master of speech, to control the ultimate narrative, that people are stuck into line, they're completely brainwashed, they're completely manipulated to do whatever they want, and not allowed to contribute in any conversation outside the norms. Unbelievably crazy. And that leads to stuff like this. And this is actually a news headline. I could not believe this. I thought this was a joke. I honestly thought this was a joke. I had to look at different websites. I had to do like a double take. I almost, spat out my drink when I saw this. Canada considers house arrest for people at risk of committing hate crimes. At risk. So not even people that are caught, but at risk. So even if you're thinking outside the norms and maybe put it on social media or maybe have a podcast show, you are considered a criminal. You're considered a master criminal that they have to do house arrest for Canadian citizens. I don't know what else to tell you, folks. We live in such dystopian, beyond 1984 times. This is like the sickening beyond sickening. This is something that probably Adolf Hitler thought about in his wet dreams. This is the ultimate devastation, and censorship has been the long-stayed battle against humanity for all time. That they're trying to control people, control the narrative, control information, to, again, control populations, to control the culture. Because they don't want people to know. They don't want people outside the norms. They don't want people to read into things. They don't want people to find out the truth. They don't want people to understand what's going on in the world. And that's why they're doing stuff like this in 2024. After we know that they lied about COVID, we know that they lied about Ukraine, we know that they're lying about Israel-Palestine. So now they're at their last hope because people are waking up to realize this, and now they're doing the ultimate thing by turning the entire nation into criminals. By saying you conducting outside the pleasantries of the Canadian government and outside, you are considered a terrorist. Ergo, domestic terrorist. And never thought we lived to see the day that this would happen in my lifetime. That all the years that your ancestors and grandparents and people that fought against fascism, I don't think they've realized that fascism just got rebranded. Fascism got woven in to the rest of capitalism. And this is no longer a capitalist state. This is not even a communist state. It's a fascist state. Because you have big government overreach into corporate control to suppress people, suppress the public, which is the definition of fascism. And this is all at the hands of pretty boy Justin Trudeau and his masters at the World Economic Forum. This is truly the darkest of darkest days that we can no longer have conversations apparently online. Which I'll just tell you, this is why we have a show. This is why it's important to subscribe to this channel and follow along with us if you want to have at least an outsider voice contradicting the suppression of your own thoughts. And we can rise against the authoritarian measures that follow along with this.